Welcome to our Predictive AI World webinar series. We're very excited to have you with us today. Today we are going to be profiling Dave Green, who's the Chief Marketing Alliance Officer of Demand Matrix. My name is Dr. Cindy Gordon, and I'm the CEO and founder of SalesChoice and the host of today's webinar discussing how AI optimizes sales production. Dave, welcome to the webinar today, and really delighted you could be here with us, Dave.
Cindy, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
We're delighted for you to be here too, Dave. In terms of the agenda, team that's online, we're going to start off with just a little bit of context staging on the rise of AI. In particular, zoom in on predictive targeting. We've got a few case studies we wanted to share with you because we think storytelling is really important. Then we wanted to step back and talk about the importance of AI and data sciences as it relates for people that have roles in sales, whether you're chief revenue officer, whether you're in sales ops, or whether you're on the front line. So I think we've learned a lot about how these applications can be utilized and also some of the challenges that people have in also starting to rely on AI to guide them to new outcomes. So in terms of setting the stage, I don't think anybody here today would disagree with the fact that customer acquisition has never been more difficult in our increasingly complex data. I like to often call it the tsunami world. As a matter of fact, 90% of the world's data has just been created only in the last 2 years. And 80% of that data, also known as unstructured. And data, as we all know, because we don't have in a lot of our organizations a universal data lake and all the connector layers in place or analytic overlays to find those right breadcrumbs to tell the right stories, we've got a lot of fragmentation going on in all organizations, whether it's small, mid, or large. One indicator of data growth is just the staggering volume of data center growth, growing at over 60% compound annual growth annually. It's probably a good time to own Amazon shares. Machine-generated data is growing at 10x faster than business data as our connected devices, whether they're mobile phones or IoT, nested appliances, they're accelerating the data droplets and creating new waves everywhere. As one looks ahead, though, by 2020, the average internet user is targeting to be using over 1.5 gigabytes traffic a day. So we're not going to see these waves subside at all. However, harnessing that energy and ensuring the patterns are accurate and, more important, trustworthy and not biased, but also comply with legal and regulatory policies is a force that we need to reckon with. Just a few other, facts in terms of the growth of the market is also an indication of the investments that's going into the AI market. It's predicted to be over 60 billion by 2025, while deep learning methods in AI are predicted to be over 16 billion by 2025. I often joke with our team that AI is the new oxygen, as at the first time in any kind of technology innovation where it's actually going to underpin everything, not simply technology, but everything. That means what we wear, our homes in terms of smart homes, our appliances, our shoes, even all business processes will start to increasingly rely on AI for sense making. Artificial intelligence is also, from an economic perspective, it's going to be bigger than anything we've seen in our lifetime. All indications are that the annual growth rate in the US alone can grow from 2.6% to 4.6% by 2035 as a result of the transformation enablements of AI. Of course, new jobs will be created, old jobs will be lost. This is a very transformative time. We are already seeing predictions of 50% of jobs starting to evolve or be lost in the next 20 to 50 years, depending on which trajectory you're looking at. Accenture just finished some good research. It's pretty easy to access online on the impact of AI, where they surveyed 12 developing economies and basically also validated that AI could double annual economic growth rates, but across, sort of the top 12 performing countries. Clearly, staying connected is very top of mind in the field of AI. finding the right people that actually have the skills and the expertise and the training, but also, the ones that are, I'd call it agile, also are resilient. They want to test new possibilities, and they're not afraid of experimentation, and more importantly, not afraid of failure. So we are definitely on that sort of growth continuum right now, where emergence and the emergence players will have an advantage, and obviously we still have many players that are reticent, standing on the sidelines. But there's no question, having been immersed in this industry for now the last 5 years, the time is now. We've put together a joint venture recently with two other organizations, our company SalesChoice, but Cata Alliance and IT World Canada, to start bringing together all the global players, both from researchers, academics, and companies, as well as solution providers, so that people can connect and know who's who, so to speak, on a global basis. When you look at the business model sides, before we dive deeper into the main theme on sales optimization, I just wanted to be clear that sales optimization and AI is universal. It's not just applicable to B2C consumer markets, but also to B2B markets. Although we've certainly seen a lot more innovation in the B2C side, I would say traditionally they've been experimenting with machine learning and approaches and personas on targeted marketing segmentation, maybe sales lead optimization processes. So the B2C market is more mature in terms of some types of AI. However, the B2B market, when it gets moving, it absolutely starts to really hit the Fortune 500 dynamics, and they're starting to experiment just because of the sheer volume of infrastructure where blockchain can play out, propensity modeling, being able to pick up very large value chains and sort of put all the pieces together. Our company at SalesChoice, we mainly specialize in AI for predicting future outcomes on sales revenue and propensity to purchase signal detection, where we partner with Demand Matrix and start to overlay their rich insights on, sort of technographic insights of particular products that are out within the global ecosystem, that with that insight, you can pull that through and alert the sales professional to more optimal coverage, but also maybe impact their strategy as to which accounts you should pursue versus others that you should not pursue, because you're just really wasting precious time. So no longer are we blind these days between what insights can be found with a lot of creative ways, and web crawlers with AI can start to put the pieces together for you. On the ROI front, I don't think we need to have the debate anymore. Does AI prove value? We've got many case studies on our side of companies increasing their top line revenue 5 to 15%. We just finished one actually yesterday that'll be out shortly on our site. But in terms of more formalized academic researchers, companies that use data science approaches increase their productivity by over 50% and increase their profitability by 17x. That particular research actually was a combination of McKinsey with MIT. I think there's lots of information out there indicating that companies that utilize data have 23 times better customer acquisition experience, 6 times higher customer retention, and in this particular study, 19 times higher profitability. So I don't think we have to sit back and debate. The real question is, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? What's the use case? And what particular solution set are you best to advance towards, and which organization has a sustainability quotient, so that as you evolve, they can evolve with you. So there's many new questions that we need to ask as a result of AI. What is our customer thinking right now? We've got to basically get enough of these data, I call them breadcrumbs, sort of stitched together, so you really can understand what their needs are, also understand their transitioning in terms of maybe as they go through life transitions where they might be. The banking industry has been very, very good at this. Obviously somebody coming in, filling out a mortgage application, you know exactly how old they are, so you can predict, after the mortgage, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll likely have children. There may be need for more estate planning if they've got high net worth parents. with assets that maybe they know from their wealth management groups. So they can start to put together portfolios of patterns and then think about what particular services they can upsell along their, kind of growth trajectory. And AI is very, very good at being able to put all those pieces together and then alert at the right time when the I'd call it that buying window is opening up. So, what data can I access to always be in touch is certainly important. I think one of the areas that we're underestimating is what are the new skills and tools so that you can mobilize AI. Because there are different methods, there's different techniques. In many ways, there's some different processing language. You definitely need to have an appreciation of math, statistics, and in many organizations, some of those skill sets are not as strong as maybe the creative skills and maybe some of the communication skills, but you really do need to bring these blended resources together. Obviously, software vendors like ourselves or like Dave with what he does, we try to simplify the technical sides and the user interface experience, but we're very, very much big believers in explainable AI versus black box AI, and are quite sensitive to the different regulatory and privacy realities. One noteworthy development is the European privacy standards that were just released this month. So if you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend. I think the UK is getting out front, and the European nations definitely on their AI policy frameworks, far more progressive than North America at this point in time. I'm going to now turn things over to my partner on the call today, Dave Green. As I mentioned, he's the Chief Marketing Officer of Demand Matrix. And we're going to now hone in on more specific marketing and sales conversations specifically on predictive targeting. So Dave, we're going to pass the controls over to you.
Thank you, Cindy. Let me ask the audience some questions. You'll see a poll pop up, and you should get a pop up with the potential answers there, and just hit submit. But are you experimenting with AI to solve CRM challenges now? None. You're planning to. You're just getting started. You've been at it a while, and you really have a mature practice. And then the next question. Are you interested in improving your sales organization using AI? Just yes, no question. And then do you use firmographics like SIC codes, NAICS, employment revenue, that sort of thing, to target accounts? Another yes, no question. And then finally, the bane of all sales leaders, the next question. Have you had salespeople complain about sales territory equality or fairness? Yes or no? If you haven't been managing long, and that seems to be a common theme. So when you look at, and there's our answers, a lot of people have not started, and then a few people are planning, and a few people have started. On the next question, everyone's interested in AI. I guess that's why you came to the webinar. And the next result is, do you use firmographics? Most people are using firmographics. It's been around for a long time. I used to work for Dun & Bradstreet years ago, and I think since Abraham Lincoln, firmographics have been available to sales and marketing people doing B2B. And then the final question, an unexpected answer here. 83% have had salespeople complaining about sales territory inequality. Well, all of these things tie to what we're talking about today. I know that that firmographics for most people are a staple. And I would just suggest to everyone that things like an SIC code or a NAICS code or employment data is sort of a blunt instrument for targeting your market. And what we really need is a scalpel and not a rusted battle axe. If you think about those kinds of firmographic data, it's not that they're not useful. They certainly are very useful. And in fact, they're usually central to most propensity type modeling that you're going to do. However, those codes, if you ever get real close to an industry, like in my case, I work a lot with tech companies. And once you really understand an industry and then you start looking at whatever Dun & Bradstreet or some other company says is their SIC or NAICS, it's often wrong, right? They'll have a distributor classified as a manufacturer and a software company classified as a reseller and things like that. They really are not very precise once you get very granular on them. And if you're in a very rapidly growing sector, things like employment and revenue, which are very static, are often inaccurate and really don't reflect the size of the organizations any longer. So I talked about territory inequality. Well, that's a direct result of using these kinds of blunt instruments, right? I just go in and I say, I want to make sure that everybody has X number of accounts, and I don't really look beyond that. And anyone that's ever been in sales knows of a sales rep who was sitting on an absolute gold mine of opportunity compared to other people, blew out his or her number, but that market potential wasn't really factored into the equation. And other reps who have been shown the door who really didn't have the same kind of opportunity, again, because people are using these blunt instruments to carve up a marketplace and assign sales resources to them. So I want to talk about some better ways to do that. And I'm going to go to something that I think is self-evident, really, which is the predictive power of actual purchase behavior, right? If consumer marketers, if you gave them a list of consumers who had bought a Ford F-150 pickup truck, right, and maybe with a gun rack, and you had another group of people that bought a Prius hybrid, you could extrapolate a lot of other things about those individual people. A lot of other attitudes, a lot of other buying behaviors, what kind of clothing they would be inclined to wear, what kinds of social activities they would be inclined to participate in, what kinds of political leanings they would likely have, all because of what they had purchased. And you can hone in on a lot of different things. And I would say there's a very similar kind of opportunity to hone in on what people have bought beyond what products they bought from you or services they bought from you. And I would go back to a model that I first read about a generation ago by Jeffrey Moore in his great book, Crossing the Chasm, where he talked about this adoption curve, right? The innovators, the early adopters, and so on until you get to the laggards. And the problem I had when I read this is I thought, okay, well, how do I find these different segments of the market? Where are they? They're not definable by an industry code. They're not definable really by revenue or size of company. They're really defined much more by other kinds of characteristics that are not so easy to get at, or historically have not been so easy to get at. And so if you have a product that's really trying to address, people in the early stages of the adoption cycle, how do you find them? And likewise, if you have other products or services that are going after more of a commoditized mass market, you also want to be able to hone in on exactly who you can win with there as well. And I think there's a new type of data that can allow you to do just that. What our company does is we have used data science and computation and machine learning to build a deep search platform to go out and figure out what kind of technologies people have both in front of the firewall and behind the firewall. And the data source now, I think, is something like 15 million companies, mostly in North America and in the UK, Ireland. And it comprises about 10,000 products. So it's a very huge data set, and we're updating it all the time. And one of the things we did is we looked at it and we said, can you figure something out about what people are going to buy based upon what they have bought and what their technology footprint looks like? And a very simplified example is a marketing stack, right? Where usually a company will get a CRM, and then later, when they get more mature, they'll buy a marketing automation platform like Marketo or HubSpot, and then they'll go get more specialized tools to do social media, listening, or monitoring. They'll get specialized tools for SEO and for paid search advertising, right? And get more and more refined. And it's not until they get much more sophisticated that they start looking at things like data management platforms or predictive analytics platforms like a company like SalesChoice would provide. And you can look at this from different departmental frames of reference, right? They're going to get a CRM, and then they're going to get specialized sales tools like maybe SalesLoft, and maybe data subscription tools like Discover.org or Hoover's, right? And there's a sequence or a progression to that. And because we have up to 5 years of a technology adoption history, we've been able to start to see these patterns in order to begin to predict what is somebody going to buy given what they've already purchased.